Good morning, everybody. I am going to call the Board of Directors meeting to order for the Toronto Region and Conservation Authority. As a reminder to everyone, this meeting is being held virtually with members of the board participating remotely. In addition, the meeting is being streamed live on the Toronto Region Conservation Authority website. I would like to remind members that electronic devices which emit a sound should be turned off or otherwise set to vibrate or silent. Please ensure your cameras are turned on. I will conduct attendance and call out the name of each member. If you could please unmute your microphone and confirm that you're present. Ainsley, that's me, I'm here.
Oh, sorry, Chair Ainsley, I can do the roll call for you.
Oh, okay, sure, that's great. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Ainsley?
Here.
Ash has provided regrets. Barton? Rar? Burnside? Carol?
Oh, I'm here. I just logged on in time.
Thank you. Cole?
Here.
Dasco? Dies has sent in. Thank you, Councillor Dasco.
Good morning.
Councillor Dies has sent in regrets. Fletcher? Fonseca? Han?
Present.
Jackson? Kelleher? Kroon? Kroon is here. Go. Lee? Matlow? Morley?
Present.
Mukherjee?
Yeah.
Myers?
Here.
Pellegrini?
Present and greetings.
Peruzza?
Always present.
Russo?
Present.
Santos?
Present.
You Sachs?
Present.
Sinclair?
Present.
Kang?
Hi, number 10 here. Present.
Thank you. And West. Okay, thank you.
Jackson is here now as well.
Thank you. Chair Ainsley, we are good to go, and I see Myers is here as well. Sorry, Chair Ainsley, I think you are on mute.
Sorry, not sure what happened there. I'd like to read the acknowledgement of Indigenous territories. We respectfully acknowledge that we're situated on traditional territories and treaty lands, in particular those of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, as well as the Anishinaabe of the Williams Treaty First Nation, the Huron-Wendat and the Haudenosaunee and the Métis Nation. As stewards of land and water resources within the Greater Toronto Region, the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority appreciates and respects the history and diversity of the land and is grateful to have the opportunity to work and meet in this territory. Could I have someone to move and second the minutes of our meeting number 1 on January 13th, 2023? Fonseca, seconded by Sachs. All in favor? That carries. Does anybody have any pecuniary interest disclosure that they would like to declare at this moment?
Chair, it's Don Sinclair. I have an interest in 10.5.2 on the new administrative building, as my son's firm is involved in the planning function for that project.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. We will make note of that. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you very much. We will now move on to the consent agenda. I will read out each item on the agenda that may be approved on consent. Members of the Board of Directors may ask that an item be held so that it can be further discussed. If you could please indicate your intention to hold an item verbally. The person that holds the item will be given the opportunity to speak first when the item is brought forward. If an item is not held, the motion is deemed to be approved as written, and no further discussion of this item will take place at this meeting. So the consent listings. Under Section 1, items for Board of Directors action, 8.1, 2023 to 2025 Regional Watershed Alliance appointments. 8.2, supplementary report, vendor of record arrangement for rental of operated heavy construction equipment. This is a contract extension. Any holds?
I'd like to hear more about this one.
Okay, Sachs. Okay, could I have a mover and seconder for 8.1? Kelleher and Pellegrini, all in favor? That item carries. 8.2 is being held by Diane Sachs. Under Section 3, items for information for the board, there are none on today's agenda. Materials from the Executive Committee meeting on February 3rd, 2023. Section 1 is items for Board of Directors action. The first item is 10.1.1, request for tender for supply and delivery of various aggregates to Bluffers Southwest Headland. This is phase 3. Any holds? Seeing none. 10.1.2, vendor of record arrangement for rental of operated heavy construction equipment. This is a contract extension. Can I have a mover and a seconder for these two items?
Sorry, hang on. Mr. Chair, could you just repeat which item that was one more time? I'm trying to communicate on another.
Yep.
What item are we releasing?
10.1.2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. So can I have a mover and a seconder?
I can move those while my mic's on if you
All right.
like.
Thank you, Shelley. Moved by Carol, seconded by Kroon. All in favor? Carried. Section 2, items for Executive Committee action. 10.2.1, acquisition from Valley Major Developments Limited in the City of Vaughan. 10.2.2, lease renewal for tree trekking. 10.2.3, applications for permits pursuant to Section 20.0.1 of the Conservation Authorities Act, Mayfield Developments Incorporated in Caledon. 10.2.4, Human Resources and Payroll Information System for contract extension. 10.2.5, Infrastructure Canada Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund approval. If there's no holds in this section, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Russo, seconded by DiPaolo. All in favor? Carried.
Sorry, through the chair, if I just may, the one item that requires to be held would be 10.1.2, the supplemental report. So when we get to that item will be held as well for Councillor Sachs to discuss.
And also through the chair, I just want to make sure that in terms of moving motions, I guess Mayor West is not here today and has a designate Councillor DiPaolo, but in terms of moving the motion,
Mr. McKenzie, I am here.
Oh, sorry, Mayor West. Okay, so I just want to make sure in terms of moving the motion, just because as part of the transition, we need to have a board member move the motion, so it would need to be someone other than Mr. DiPaolo on that. I just want to confirm that with the chair. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we will have a, different mover.
We have Councillor, through the chair, we have Councillor Russo, and we would just need another seconder.
All right. Can I have another seconder? Pellegrini. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. All right, we are on section 3, items for information of the board, 10.3.1, 2022 year-end funding and grants program update. 10.3.2, Q4 communications, marketing, and events report summary, October 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. If there are no holds, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Morley and Santos, thank you. Section 4, Ontario Regulation 166/06 as amended. Would anybody like to hold this? Seeing none, can I have a mover and a seconder? Morley, seconded by Kelleher. All in favor? That carries. And then we have 2 items on closed session on the agenda from our February 3rd, 2023 executive meeting. In this section, 10.5.1, update on food services arrangement as of February 2023. There's a confidential attachment.
Mr. Chair, I have some questions.
Councillor Carroll?
Yeah, I have some questions about that, but it shows up in updates as well. Do we need to hold all the items or just hold the update at the end?
I think just hold the update at the end is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Or sorry, Joanne, do I have both of these held?
Sorry, through the chair. If you would like to discuss the contents of 10.5.1, that would have to be held because the one in closed session, the update would be a separate, a supplemental report. So they'd be 2 separate reports if you wanted to discuss them.
And I think it's all the same group of staff. So maybe that's prudent, Mr. Chair, if I could hold 10.5.1 and then the update in 12 point whatever.
Yep, perfect. Yep, no problem. Okay, so Councillor Carroll is holding 10.5.1. 10.5.2, TRCA's new administrative building project, financial update as of January 2023. Seeing no hold on, can I have a mover for 10.5.2? A mover and a seconder, please.
Peruzza.
Thank you. Peruzza and a seconder. On. All in favor? That carries. Under section 11, closed section, 11.1, Ontario Lands Tribunal update on recent appeals as of December 2022. 11.1, Ontario Lands Tribunal status of hearings as of December 2022. 11.3, supplemental report on updated food services agreement as of February 2023. Sorry, Shelley, did you want to hold 11.3?
Yeah, let's just put it this way. I have questions on the food service agreement, period.
Perfect. We'll do it that way. Okay. So we have 2 items in that section that need approval. If I could have a mover and a seconder, and Councillor Carroll is holding 11.3 in conjunction with 10.5.1. I can have a mover. Morley, seconded by West. All in favor? Carried. All right, so I believe, so we're going back to Joanne 8.2.
Through the chair, that's correct, 8.2.
Getting better at this. All right, 8.2, supplemental report, vendor of record arrangement for rental of operated heavy construction equipment. This is a contract extension. Councillor Sachs, you have questions of staff on this item?
Yes, I asked a number of questions about this at executive committee, particularly in relation to the exceptionally polluting diesel engines manufactured prior to 2008. And I understand that Mr. McKenzie was going to review the matter and have further information today, and that's all I know. So perhaps we can turn it to Mr. McKenzie.
Thank you. And I just really quickly, and then I'll let some of the relevant staff speak to it. Really do appreciate you flagging this. It was something that there's been discussions on, but we did upon your questions when we went back. We've had some more discussions with the vendors, and so the report in 8.2 reflects the discussions we've had, the discussions on what inventory the contractors have related to those, pre-2008 vehicles that are construction equipment that is of great concern. And I think maybe I'll let Anil speak to some of the findings, but the long and short of it is that we are moving away from those vehicles as quickly as we can. And what we have found through the work was that there was one vehicle that one of the contractors has that is of that vintage that is of concern. And so what we're trying to do is transition, and what we've had is discussions about not utilizing that vehicle in our work going forward. But Anil, maybe you can give some more details on that. Thanks.
Happy to, John. Through you, Chair. Just confirming what John indicated, we did follow up with the vendors to kind of get a full map of all of the pre-2008 fleet. And so the only one that currently will be used on TRCA projects is a long reach excavator that is pre-2008. So in terms of risks associated with the pre-2008 devices, it's fairly low in that it's just that one long reach excavator. And historically, we haven't used the long reach on a frequent basis. I believe over the last 2 years, we've used it on about 6 projects, and that accounted for about just under 60 days of use for that particular equipment.
And what are we going to do to terminate it, given the serious adverse impact that operation of this equipment has on anybody who lives or works nearby?
Through you, Chair. So the plan would be going forward, working with that one particular vendor to look at alternatives that are post 2008 where it's feasible to do so, and when it's required, or if it's required for a particular project.
And I think the other thing I wanted to add to that, and it's in the report, is that for any future procurements that come forward, we would absolutely make that fundamental requirement going forward. I think that's the other part of the report that the supplemental report that we put forward includes information on. So no, I really do, like I said, it's been a really good point that was raised, and we've gone back and looked at it. It's definitely something that we'll build into the future procurement. We do have a number of time-sensitive projects that we are in the middle of for our municipal partners. Some good news coming out of the federal government means there may be even more coming our way on some disaster mitigation projects and other works that are time-sensitive and do support mostly the City of Toronto in the work that we're doing on waterfront resiliency projects. So there is some sensitivity in terms of timing and this current contract extension, but absolutely what has been discovered is that we can be much stronger on this going forward in terms of our procurements and restricting anything of that vintage from being used on our sites.
I appreciate that. One other point, because when we spoke last, you didn't have confirmation as to whether there were any of these vehicles and then whether you were going to use them. Since you've confirmed that there is one you're going to continue to use, I'd ask that you pay attention to its maintenance, because these older vehicles, the emissions from them are exceptionally sensitive to the quality of the maintenance. And if they're very well maintained, they're not quite as damaging as if they're not very well maintained. So I'd ask that you get somebody who knows things about vehicle maintenance to make sure that this thing is running as well as it possibly can.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Sachs. Are there any other questions on this item?
Just a comment, if I may. It's Councillor Morley. I met yesterday with a local business in my community that is focused on green tech, and they are doing work to essentially help green fleets. And so I just wanted to ask staff if there was any exploration with these contractors around the possibility of transitioning old diesel to lithium. And that's me saying that without knowing too much about the science behind that, but just to say that it's come to my attention that there are, green energy, that there is green energy work underway that is sort of looking at that possibility. And so I just wondered if staff could comment on that for me.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sorry, Hugo, we're just waiting for Amber's answer from, I believe she needs a question from staff, and then you can have the floor.
Thank you.
I know, do you want to speak to this?
Absolutely. Through you, Chair. That's a great point, and that is something that we're researching quite closely right now in terms of kind of the electrification potential of this heavy equipment. Right now, a lot of the larger units, one of the challenges is around how we recharge the units on site. And so that's been a focus of, as we look at smaller equipment, there's more opportunity there right now versus some of the larger heavy excavators. But I think that kind of research and testing is happening with all of the major manufacturers as well, like Hitachi, Caterpillar, and others. So we're definitely looking at what elements of electrification we could build into, as we head to 2025 and the next iteration of the contract. I think the other components, in addition to electrification as well, are waste diversion and water consumption as well, because those are, from a full life cycle sustainability perspective, are two other big components, in addition to the kind of fuel consumption as well. So I think we're trying to look at holistically a lot of those kind of combination of elements, and then see what parameters we could reasonably build in with those vendors. And part of the next couple of months heading to 2025, we want to do a bit more market sounding with some of our vendors as well, to see, both our existing, but also what else is out in the marketplace as well.
Thank you. That's helpful. Thanks, Anna.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Morley. Councillor Kroon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. These are rental machines, correct?
Through you, Chair, that's correct.
Yes. So when we go out to market for these services, how many vendors do we get giving us a quote?
For this particular one, I don't have the exact number of vendors in the original invitation, but typically we post it publicly. And I believe we were in the order of, if I recall correctly, I'm just looking through the notes here, I think we had under 10, so around 7 vendors that ended up submitting for the process, and then 4 were awarded this current contract.
Because this long reach machine we're talking about, what's the specifications? What kind of a distance reach are we talking about?
It's primarily used more for our larger waterfront projects. So
I understand that. What kind of reach we're talking about? Typical machines have a reach of under 30 feet. Long reach go up to 60 and beyond. What kind of a reach we're talking about?
I believe it is 16 and 16 beyond in this case.
So realistically, how many vendors actually have these machines?
It is. It's a good point. It is a limited pool. I would estimate probably 3 to 4, maybe less. That
limited by the fact that these are multi-million-dollar machines.
Absolutely, yes.
They're incredibly expensive, and kind of really limits the pool. And a lot of these operators, when they invest in a machine like this, they expect that that they be part of their fleet for a long time, so that they get a return on them. As you pointed out, they don't get used a lot because there's not a whole lot of call for these things. So where the average machine can do up to 2,000 hours a year, a machine like this, if they're lucky, if they have a good contract, they might get a couple hundred out of it a couple of hundred serviceable hours out of it a year, payable hours. So this machine would have to be in their inventory for 20 to 30 years before it pays back. So my question is, if we're expecting contractors to have a cutoff date as to how long they can use these machines, what are we asking them to do with them when they're done with it? You have a multi-million-dollar machine that now they just have to push out to the scrapyard and replace with something else. I know that's not going to change the decision that we're making today, but these are the kinds of things that we have to think about. We're simply trying to reduce, diesel usage or the kind of emissions that they're going to make by a matter of percentages, but asking them to make a multi-million-dollar investment and then simply pushing it to the curb, that may not be as environmentally responsible as we believe it to be. So I think that putting I want to use the term unnecessary restrictions on them, especially when it comes to things like forcing them to change their maintenance schedules, on these machines, because we're just renting the machine. I don't think, like as long as I've been in the business, and I've owned machines, I don't think I've ever had a customer tell me how to maintain my machines. I think we're putting unnecessary and, in my view, expensive restrictions. And at the end of the day, this all comes down to the amount of money that we're spending, because it's all taxpayers' money. So we need to be cognizant of that as well. So those are my comments in regards to this, and I think we need to color our decisions based on all the information, not just the environmental impact. As important as that is, we have to base our decisions on all the information. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kroon. Councillor, sorry if there's no other questions. I do see hands up. I don't know if we're still on questioning of staff. Is it Councillor Maria Kelleher, do you have questions of staff? Or to speak? Sorry, Maria, I'm having trouble hearing you. It's squeaky. Sorry, Mary, do you want to try logging out and back in, or? Sorry, Shelley, are you the question, or did you?
Yeah, mine was questions of staff.
Okay, why don't we go to Councillor Carroll, then we can go back to Maria.
Okay, super. Well, the question was, further to those comments, I'm wondering if staff could spell out for us, when we're making these purchases, are we setting the terms such that, whatever restrictions we put on the types of vehicles, are we setting the terms so that the operator and servicers of the vehicle get to, the contract with them extends to the life of the vehicle so that they get their use out of it, whatever type of vehicle it is? Similar to, I'm asking if it's similar to what we do at, on the city side, and probably most of us do on the city side. If you're setting a contract with someone to do service and you're expecting them to bring the fleet, you set the terms of the contract so they get their money's worth out of the fleet in the life of that contract. Is that the way this is structured?
Through the chair, I can respond to that one. So when it comes to scheduled maintenance within the contract, we typically it's built in to follow the manufacturer's recommended scheduled maintenance, and then we also have provision to request the maintenance records upon when requested, and then we also have provision related to when it comes to kind of, again, like, managing that equipment, having ongoing conversations with the vendors in terms of, as the vehicles are used on site, what we can do to kind of minimize wear and tear where realistically feasible on our project sites. And we also have kind of provisions in there around idling time as well, which kind of more relates to kind of the fume considerations, but I think also has an impact on kind of the machines itself. So we have some provisions around vehicle idling as well.
And beyond their use, do we have a program for the resale of vehicles, or do we return to the supplier? If we place restrictions on the type of vehicle we want, we leave it to the supplier to do resale?
That's correct, through the chair. That is, it's really the responsibility of the vendor to kind of manage their fleet. And in the example of that one long reach item that the vendor has right now, they are looking potentially to life cycle that out of their fleet as well. And so that would go into the secondary market, as we understand, where there might be a potential purchaser for that unit that might be purchasing that unit in the near future.
And I don't know if it's your knowledge. I don't know if my knowledge is up to date. That secondary market where more and more authorities and interests are placing these environmental restrictions. There is quite a robust secondary market for places where there are no restrictions and they pick up these vehicles. Am I right? They don't necessarily end up in the scrapyard.
That's my general understanding as well, and that's one of the things I think we want to look at as part of this. Heading into the next iteration of the contract, I think is potentially getting more visibility into how some of the equipment gets reused, and some of that ties to waste diversion components that we may want to look at as well, and what is reasonable and what is kind of that transition. What does that transition period look like?
Okay, thanks. Those are my questions, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Is Maria back on?
Through the chair, she is not back on yet. I'm just trying to send her a message to see if she's having some issues with her computer.
Okay, all right. Diane, I see your hand back. See your electronic hand. Did you questions of staff, or did you want to speak?
Yes. Well, one
or a combo of both.
Yeah, one for the question to staff.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is something that you've looked into or not, but roughly what percentage of the value of a long-reach excavator is in the actual diesel engine? Is it more than 10%?
Through the chair, we haven't done that research right now. I don't have that answer, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fair, I know. Have you looked at all into the opportunities, of which there are many, to take old construction equipment and simply replace the engine so that it's no longer so harmful to the health of the people in the vicinity?
Through the chair, we haven't as of yet, but it's certainly something we can look at as we look at a future iteration of the contract.
Right. Would it be helpful for you for our office to be looking for some information on that, or is this something that you have in hand?
Through the chair, if your office does have some information, we'd gladly welcome it. I think we're kind of in the research phase through our various teams as well. So any information we're able to gather, we welcome it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Sorry, Joanne, did you get Maria back on, or any luck?
Sorry, through the chair. Oh, she just popped on now.
Perfect.
Hi, can you hear me now?
I can hear you perfectly, Maria. Questions of staff? Go ahead.
So the point I just wanted to make was that for very heavy equipment, the battery electric might be a heavy opportunity, a heavy draw, but hydrogen would be also a fuel to look at. And I think the federal government might be quite interested. I totally agree with the previous speaker, the massive investment in these heavy excavators, you simply cannot scrap. And so retrofitting is of great interest to the government right now. So I would explore hydrogen might be tricky, but the battery electric, they would be very interested in, and they're already funding, for instance, Nouveau graphite mine in Quebec is fully electric with help from the government. So sorry, that was the point I wanted to just think about that to Anil when you're looking at all the options, but retrofitting rather than scrapping, absolutely. Thank you, Chair Ainsley. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry it took so long to get technically up.
Not a problem at all. Are there any? Is there anybody that would like to speak on this item? Speak further on this item?
Sorry, is Councillor Sachs speaking to it, or you're leaving your comments stand from executive?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I should speak first. All right, my point simply was, I mean, I obviously take other comments about the cost. No one is suggesting that these machines should be scrapped. They certainly should not be scrapped. They should be upgraded. California has been leading the way on this for a long time. As I understand it, almost all the value of these machines is in everything other than the engine. The engine is, in many ways, the simplest and most predictable part of the machine. And so my point was that we should be we're trying to do good. We're all involved in this organization in order to promote the public good, and poisoning the neighbors isn't part of that, especially since there are alternative engines available for almost all machines. So I'll get back in touch with the California Air Resources Board and see if I can provide an introduction for you there. But I just wanted to make clear, fixing up these machines, retrofit, not scrap. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Diane. I do not see any further speakers.
Yes, I'm going to lower my hand, Mr. Chair, because that was already a mic drop.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Shelley. I need a mover and a seconder for this item. Morley and a seconder, Sachs, all in favor, and that carries. Our next item is, sorry, where's my sheet? We're on the, 10.5.1 and 11.3, which in abbreviated form is food services contract. Shelley, you held both items. Would you like questions of staff?
I did, Mr. Chair, and I apologize, as you probably did discuss this at executive, but I wasn't able to attend at a conflict.
Oh, sorry, sorry, Shelley, sorry to interrupt. Joanne, do we need to go in camera?
Through the chair, yes, we will need to go into camera.
Yeah, the presentation I'd like, it probably is in camera.
Yep. All right.
In its entirety, I should say. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I am going to move that the Board of Directors move into closed session pursuant to section C.4.
Sorry, through the chair, we just have to deal with 10.1.2. That was the report, the actual report that first came to executive the other week on February 3rd. So we dealt with the supplemental report first and then.
Okay. Yep.
I think that's in confidential too, Mr. Chair, isn't it?
10.1.2? No.
No.
That's the vendor of record for, it's the contract extension for heavy construction equipment.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Brune, seconded by Pellegrini. All in favor? That carries. Good now, Joanne?
We are good now, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Coffee break, bio break.
Through the chair, we are back live and recording.
All right. So I'm sorry, I need a mover and a seconder to confirm what we did in camera.
So yes, through the chair, we just need a mover and seconder for 10.5.1 and then 11.3.
Okay. And moved by Shelley Carroll, seconded by Diane Sachs. All in favor? That carries. I believe, Madam Clerk, that's all our business for today.
Sorry, through the chair, we would just need to go back So we did that.
Did I miss one?
Nope, you did not. We are good. Just new business and then adjournment.
Okay. So under new business, I'd just like to remind everybody the next meeting of the Board of Directors, number 3, is on March 24th, 2023 March 24th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. And can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Moved by Amber Morley, seconded by Diane Sachs. All in favor? I declare the meeting adjourned.